I'm Felix Levine, and welcome to Unlike Me, where I sit down with fascinating people I have nothing in common with.
And we're live.
All right.
Ryan, thank you so much for coming on. Bright and early.
Yes.
Early worm
Gets
the penthouse.
bird. Oh, yes. No, actually. I don't think I've ever sold a penthouse early. Those buyers are either controlling their own destiny, so they shop late.
Okay.
Or they have really big jobs and they come after work.
Or they're international in different time zones.
Yeah, and they're a little jet lagged, for the most part. It's one of the good things about being incredibly successful that I've seen with clients is that they get to define their own time.
Right.
Like one of the most successful clients I have in New York City anyway, is private equity, massively won life. I think he goes to the gym at like 9 a.m. It's like, so wait a minute, you don't get out till like 10.
Yeah.
He's like, when do you get into the office? He's like, I try to get in the office before noon. I'm like, before noon? My day, like, I have like dinner at noon. I mean, that's not true, but like it's nuts. And he's like, yeah, I used to run at your pace. Now I don't have to. Like, I'm going to write that down. Goal in life, right? Sacrifice what others won't, so eventually I can live the way others can't.
Yeah.
That's exactly what he said.
How old is this fella?
Like early 50s.
Fuck, that's a good life.
Yeah. Lots of pressure, lots of stress, though, I'm sure.
I'll bet. Is there a little tidbit story, something the world doesn't know about you from what's already out there?
I mean, so much of my life is out there, especially because of the books, not just the TV shows, of which the new one on Netflix is number 5 for me. Just recently, as I kind of look at what we've been working on, the fact that I'm a producer on the new show, right. I don't think a whole lot of people know, because Netflix, when you're watching episodes, it immediately goes to the next episode.
Yeah.
So you don't actually watch the whole credits.
Yeah.
But Owning Manhattan is very much like my brainchild, and worked on it for a long time. And there's a lot that I like, as I watch the show, I feel really, really proud of, not just because of the deals and this, that, the other, but I was very, very focused on kind of redefining what reality TV looked like to an audience. And I grew up producing and directing and acting. That was my whole life, up until I ran out of money and needed a job. And so it's fun for me. Like, there's even a moment at the end of episode 7 of Owning Manhattan where a broker calls me and a deal is dying. It's basically dead, and she's calling to tell me. And it's basically shot in like one take in the back of a car, and the light is from a blinking red light, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't think most people probably don't watch that scene and notice it or think about reality TV as having real production values. But it was like a very, very focused element for me in trying to really sell that vibe, right? Of like, all right, so if this deal is about to die right now, let's get in the car and let's go sit at a red light. We'll have sirens, we'll have New York City around us. Otherwise, like, it's just not visually entertaining, and viewers just don't care anymore.
So I'm curious, when it comes to the production and the producer side,
Yeah.
How do you thread that needle between, you want, a reality TV show that has drama and a plot, but you're also running what you're trying to, a hopefully soon $billion business. Mm-hmm. How do you kind of find that fine line of like, okay, we want it to be nice and high drama, but these are also the people I work with. These are my agents. These are my employees. How do you kind of make sure both work hand in hand? And at the end, which, major props to you for, I think, doing both. Mm-hmm. How do you do that when you're producing a show of that caliber?
I mean, it's kind of producing a TV show. It's the same thing towards building a business. It all starts with the people, right? Like, if you just focus on the product, like if we just focused on, real estate show, then we'd be a bad real estate show. Right. And there are plenty of those. You just watch and you're like, nah, it's gross. It's either boring, stupid, nothing happens, no deals get done. It's not, and you just end up copying other people. And that's never interesting to watch. It's like watching a bad sequel. Same thing with a business. If you try to build a business, copying what other people have done, there's a small likelihood of success. There's a greater likelihood of abject failure. And so you have to go into it with an understanding that you're about to take a certain amount of risk, but it all starts with the people. Like, I think a lot of people feel this way, but it's the people first, then the product, then the profits. And so if you have the right people with the TV show, the people will create the product, and the product will end up being a TV show that you never anticipated making. And so it all really came down to the cast mixed in with a healthy amount of pre-production. Right. So we spent a year. Wow. Like we spent 2022. So $1 Million Listing New York, which I did on Bravo for 10 years, ended at the end of 2021. My renovation show that I did aired in 2022, but we really spent 2022 in pre-production for what this show was going to be. It initially was called House of Serhant. Like we have the graphics, everything.
Sick.
It's all House of Serhant. Turns out people in India didn't know what House of Seacrest meant, and they didn't get it. Okay. So like, good thing that you have, these surveys. And so we pre-production did for 1 year and worked on the cast, and Netflix had a huge hand in that, and then filmed for a year, basically. Wasn't every single day for all of 2023, but it was a significant amount of it. And then you put the right ingredients, right, into the recipe. And it's like, let's see what kind of dish gets cooked up from there. And then those people are going to react in certain ways. And listen, you put a camera in front of anyone's face while they're at work for 1 year, and weird things would happen in this room between you and your producer. And then you take those little moments and you amplify them. It's like, man, that was a heated moment.
What do you feel like owning Manhattan is mostly about in your POV from the producer's lens? Because I think that a lot of people can interpret it differently. Some can just say it's, straight real estate, New York. I think it was the part that fascinated me the most was the office dynamics and really what you said, the people.
Yeah.
Right? For you, what was the goal, I guess, initially in the pre-production? And then what do you ultimately think the final product ended up being mostly about?
It's an occupational docuseries.
Okay.
That's what it is. It's an 8-hour documentary.
Right.
Which you have the benefit of doing when you're on a streaming platform. Like the format of cable television is very, very different because you're playing to commercial breaks and DVR too, I guess. But like you are trying to still ignite that live audience because the live audience is what pays the bills for the networks. Right. They still need to sell advertising. That's how this works. And so you're playing for that commercial break over and over and over, and then see you next week. On Netflix and any other streaming platform that drops every episode all on the same day, it's an 8-hour documentary, and you want people to come and watch the movie, right? It's really an 8-hour movie. So that's why they look at like completion rates and how many people watch the whole thing. What's the engagement like? Because if you go to a movie and you leave after the first 2 minutes, that's a bad movie. But if you stay and you watch and you want to consistently see what happens and you get invested in that storyline, then it's a successful world that you're creating and a successful world that you're building. And that's how I really see it. Same thing. I mean, like anything. Like, I remember we lost $1 Million Listing New York was nominated for an Emmy twice. So for like the unstructured reality portion. And I remember that first year we lost to Deadliest Catch. And I was like, it's not about the crabs. It's not about the lobsters, right? It's about the high stakes of that occupational documentary that they were making, that people can put themselves in the shoes of a fucking do or die fisherman. And I think that entrepreneurial journey that we show on Owning Manhattan, I think came across in a super real and sometimes uncomfortable way.
Right. When did you realize that media was so important to the business? Because I think that you were light years ahead of a lot of people, not only in your industry, but in a lot of other industries that understood that distribution, media presence, also what, with the rise of all the social medias, what it could do in cahoots with growing a business. When was there a moment that you kind of understood the importance of doing all the things that, from a branding perspective that most weren't doing?
Well, I got lucky because $1 Million Listing proved that to me really quickly.
Okay.
So I was cast on $1 Million Listing New York in 2010. The show first premiered in March of 2012. Yeah. Right. So 12 years ago. And I remember people reaching out when watching the show asking me if that property was still available. It's like, no, we filmed it a year ago. Did you not finish the episode? It's sold, because that's the way the format of that show was. And it's like, I think there's interesting. And then what I saw too, about my job as a salesperson, like, so we're all in sales. Like, you're selling your podcast. I sell real estate, education. Everyone's in sales in some way, shape, or form. Is around that time, so around 2012, there was a clear change happening in the world where your product as your skill set was morphing into your product as attention, meaning that when I got into real estate in New York City, the top salespeople, the people that made the most money, the biggest brokerages, and the same thing for a lot of other service businesses, because that's what we do. If you ask them, okay, what's your product? Your product is your skill set, my ability to sell. I sell more houses than you do, so I get more houses to sell than you do.
Right.
And that flywheel continues to go and go and go and go and go. And then it's your network, and then it's sure how you market, kind of. But that was like a distant third, fourth, or fifth, right, in line of importance. And then right around 2012, I saw this is kind of like peak Facebook, pre-Instagram, okay? Twitter was a thing, that the product was changing. It wasn't necessarily the one who sold the most that was getting the most listings or building the biggest business. It was the one who had the most attention about the business they did have. And so I hadn't sold the most. I was barely in the business. And so I said, am I going to bank on doing this for 20 years so that I can go out like everybody else and then compete with my skill set? Or maybe my skill set becomes number 2 in line of importance. And the most important thing I'm going to focus on is the intention, because I think my product is now attention. Right. The more people who know what I sell, the more sales I will create. And never before, given the fact that I think right around that time too, or a little bit earlier, I'd gotten my iPhone because I had a BlackBerry for so long.
I missed the BlackBerry.
Yeah. And so you had the iPhone, plus you had social, and I immediately became a media company because of that. And, you build your entity, you have an LLC or an S Corp, and then you start your personal brand promotion. And then I'm selling my service as the ability to create attention. And then I match attention with product, right? The product being the real estate in my business, product then with my skill set, my ability to sell it, and then round and round and round we go. And I think that's why we're able to grow so fast and use media to sell.
What are you currently most proud of with Serhant?
I am the most proud of, it sounds so stupid to say, but like, I'm very proud of our culture. Like, I can look at anybody that's at our company now, and there's just over 700 now.
Wow.
And I can look at them and I can say, yeah, you're here.
Yeah.
Like, I can tell by the way you work, so your work ethic, the fact that you work incredibly hard, but you're also really nice to people, the fact that you are someone who thinks about creating something new every day, collaborating with others, inspiring everybody else. We are the culture of like, it's not a culture of sharks. It's like a culture of dolphins. Like, we will jump when you jump. We'll also grab you when you fall and support you. And I think that's unlike any other company in my space specifically that I've ever worked at. Right. I think we all grew up in an achievement culture.
Yeah.
Someone told me the other day that I grew up in an achievement culture, so I'm a human doing, not a human being. And that really resonated with me. And it had a lot of things click. It sounds so common sense until you just start to think about why I make the choices that I make. Like, why start a company? Like, why work so hard? Why work 7 days a week? Why was I doing email last night until 11:30 p.m. and then waking up at 4:30 a.m. so I could get in a workout so that I could get dressed and get here on the right amount of time? So why? Like, why do we do this? And it's part of, in huge part, the system that we were raised in, where every single day we wake up and we are now programmed to say, I do what I do to feel important, not to feel happy. If I get to a certain level of importance, which I also can't define, being important will define my happiness. And what I've really worked on with the culture with our company is the importance is already there. Like, the happier you are, let that define your success. And so far, so good.
I feel like part of it is also to not be in that cemetery of wasted potential.
Yeah. Oh God, that line.
How often do you think about what your grandfather told you?
You know what? Those moments in the show, for anyone who's listening to this who hasn't seen Owning Manhattan, one of the unique parts about the show is that it opens in voiceover. Mm-hmm. Like you feel like you turn it on, you're like, all right, I'm going to watch a reality TV show. Like, get ready for the clacking heels and the drama and the this and the that and an open house with some cupcakes. And then it opens in this voiceover talking about death. And you're like, the amount of people who have come to me and said, within the first 5 minutes watching Owning Manhattan, I had no idea what was about to happen. Like, I had no idea what I was watching. And there's consistent voiceover and this like interesting narrative thread. So anyway, but it wasn't planned. Like, we sit in that interview chair
right
for like a year, man. And the producer asks you questions and you talk. You're like, what did you think about her? And then him. And then why did you think about that? You just end up telling, just kind of like this. You end up telling stories and giving thought process. And then they took some of those moments and said, we're going to try something weird. Netflix said, go for it, even though this is not what happens on reality TV. And so one of those lines was my grandfather telling me that cemeteries are full of wasted potential and mostly like piano players you've never heard of and guitarists you've never heard of and mathematicians who you'll never know. And, it's like that movie Whiplash, right?
Is that part of the fuel though, of wanting to be great? Like I believe, and I've been fortunate enough to sit across from a lot of successful people in different fields, and there's always like, I think deep down, a rooted fear of like not being enough to some extent, right? And an insecurity of like, what if I'm not? And I think that that's the fuel for a lot. Is that the case for you?
I think for a while it was, I got to push myself as hard as I can because you don't know what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. And like I say at the end of the show as well, like the greatest day you've ever lived, you haven't even lived it yet. Mm-hmm. And that's exciting. Like that gets you up when it's raining. Like that gets you up when you're sore or when you had a bad day the day before, because today could be the greatest day of my life. Why not at least go and see? Why not try? Let's roll those dice. Yeah. And I think that I don't know. I try not to focus too much on my wasted potential anymore, as much as I used to, because I think it can also be pretty counterproductive. Like, you got to make decisions for the right reasons, right. Not just because, oh my God, maybe I won't make the right decision. That can be pretty stressful. I think today I don't know, man. I think there's a fear that if you get off the train, how do you get back on? Mm-hmm. It's like, and I think that's where most people get stuck. It's so hard to start that train,
right,
and to get to a certain speed. You just get so used to those motions that if I get off even for a second, what if I can't get back on? What happens? And then, man, in all honesty, you end up pushing so hard because your lifestyle changes around you,
right,
and it gets more expensive. Like, you have overhead, you have bills, you have payroll, you have freaking nannies, you have house, like and so now I can't stop, man. Like, how much does your life cost you? And then we just get on this human doing train over and over and over and over. And I think that's where a lot of people kind of fall into that quicksand.
How do you stay on the train? how and avoid falling? What does even
Blinders.
falling off look like?
I don't know. I have blinders on. I just lie to myself all day long. I just tell myself it's fine. Like, it's fine. You're not tired, loser. Yeah. I remember my mom once said to me, I'm sure someone else said this too. It's a core memory, where she said to me to cry on the inside like a winner. And that's a tough thing for a mom to say.
Cry on the inside like a winner.
Yeah. Like
that.
you might be in pain. Yeah, it might hurt. But you know what was a lot worse? Living in 1842.
Yeah.
Like, you know what must have really, really sucked? 1721. This is the greatest year the world has ever known. So stop complaining, stop your bitching, and cry on the inside like a winner. Now that's a scary thing to say.
Yeah.
Because I think luckily for me, I internalized it in a healthy way, where you just keep going. Like, no matter what happens, you got to keep moving through failure. Fail for me has always been the first attempt in learning. That's what it's always meant for me. And I got to learn from it and use it. And every failure brings about something great. And you can read every business book, and at least that's what you're told. But I think people can internalize it also the wrong way. I think it's like killing your emotions and your insides and not understanding them. Then you create robots, you know?
Do you feel like the Serhant or the Ryan on the show is the Ryan off the show, or even not just necessarily on this specific show, but on the past shows and online, and the offline one is the same?
Yeah, I think, if you put a camera in front of my face for like the next 12 hours, you'd see me doing email and on Zooms and in meetings.
Yeah.
That's not great TV. So I spend a lot of time in email, messaging, Zoom meetings, pushing things forward, holding people accountable. Like that's a lot of my job, going and seeing new people, trying to meet as many new people as I possibly can. But I think so. It would be incredibly difficult for me to do a reality show and be someone other than literally the authentic version of who I am. It would be so hard. Like, it would just be, I don't even know how I would do that. Because these shows aren't scripted, they're not structured, they just follow you around and they kind of have to get who you are. But I'm a different person today than I was 10 years ago. So I think...
How so?
I think if you watch $1 Million Listing New York or Sell It Like Serhant or my wedding show, like there's Ryan, the real estate agent, who thought he had tons of responsibility at the time and was stressed out all the time, but also was having a good time dressing up as bunny rabbits and in tutus and running around with my cupcakes trying to sell apartments and just make money. So there was a weird goofiness to me that I try not to totally kill these days. But once you start your own company,
right,
and you have employees and HR and general counsel and different markets and local leaders and management and things become much more serious. And the little kid in you, it is hard to keep that light there. And so I think on Owning Manhattan, that's very much exactly who I am. I'm a mature version of the goofy kid from $1 Million Listing now.
Speaking of being a kid, you just, I believe, turned 40 recently.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago.
Congratulations.
Thanks. I made it.
What would you tell that young kid who, if he were to listen to the 40-year-old version of himself when he was 20?
I would say, chill out. It's all gonna work out. Like, I would say, I wish 60-year-old Ryan would come and tell me that now.
Yeah. So why don't you?
I don't know. I can't go back in time. I do. I'm getting better at it, and I'm trying to create muscle memory. Like, there's something that I put in, I think I put in my second book in Big Money Energy, where I do like a calendar trick, where like time heals all wounds. And it's easy to say that when time goes by.
Yeah.
But it used to be that if a deal died, or someone broke up with me, or I got fired, something, that'll ruin your day, or your week. Sometimes it ruins your month. Like, you ask a lot of people today, hey, like, what was 20 23 for you. And they'd be hard pressed to remember like that great breakfast they had on that one Tuesday and that great date they had. They're gonna be like, oh, well, I separated from my husband in the beginning. And then they're gonna like latch on to the few moments of tragedy, which then define your year.
Yeah, it's true.
So I don't ever want that. Like I have a finite period of time to live. And a couple generations from now, no one's gonna know my name, no one's gonna care. So I need to use the amount of time that I have now to lead not just the best life, but to leave legacy, to hopefully leave the world in a better place, both for my kids, the people that have worked for me. And so I go on my calendar anytime something bad happens. I go 30 days out and I do a calendar invite in my calendar that says, open me. And I type out exactly how I feel, which literally could be like, fuck that guy. I hate all these people. It could be whatever. And then what always happens is 30 days go by. I look at my calendar, like, what am I doing today? Oh, Jesus, there's an open me. I open it up and I'm like, what was I going through in that moment? And it's like, it's journaling kind of. And and then I see it. I'm like, what? And sometimes I'm like, oh, I fixed it. Or I'm like, I don't care anymore. Or, yeah, that sucks. But look at all these other good things that have happened in the last 30 days. Yeah. And so I've been doing it for so long that now what happens is just the physical act of typing the note calms me down. And I know that in 30 days, I'm going to read this. This note I'm typing right now about how upset I am right now, or how frustrated I am right now, or how sad I am right now. I'm going to get there in 30 days. And it's not going to matter because I will have solved it. I will have learned from it. I will have moved on from it. So why not just start feeling that way now? Why ruin the rest of today? I have 1,000 minutes today to be productive. Why throw out 980 of them? Like why feel that way? And I don't know. That's a little trick that I do to help me.
I love it.
Get through the trials and tribulations of running a company now.
Talk to me about, and we saw it obviously in Owning Manhattan. Your wife seems like the best. I think we had briefly met her on the Egypt trip with my girlfriend, and she has to be just your best friend. And I think it takes a certain type of human being to understand what you want, right?
Yeah.
When did you know she was going to be that person for you, and how has your relationship developed? I believe it's 13 years. You guys?
Yeah. We met in 2011. We dated on and off a bit at the beginning.
I heard you pursued a little bit.
Yeah, I'm a broker, man. That's what I do. So you follow up. So I did. She was here visiting her brother from Greece. She's Greek.
Yep.
And she had gone to law school in London. So she was an attorney in Europe, in Greece. So that's where she had her job. But she came to visit her brother over the holidays in 2011. And I met her at a party, at a Hanukkah party. And then she stayed for a week. And then she stayed another week. Then she stayed another week.
Were you the reason?
I mean, I think so.
And what did she say? I want to hear it.
I mean, listen, man. She basically slept over one night and never left.
Oh, okay.
So,
okay.
So now she's there. So then
she was sold.
Yeah, and then close the deal. And then she took the bar here, just like studied for the bar randomly without going to U.S. law school.
Badass.
And passed it. So became an attorney here. And I would say, she has always been in my corner, and has always been the protector. Like she is strong when I am weak, and I think that creates a great partnership. I think it would have been much harder if I'd have been with someone who, like, when I'm weak, they're weak. When I'm strong, they're strong. Right. Or someone who then would be resentful of work, resentful of my work. I have a lot of friends and clients who have tough relationships because they feel like they can't do what they need to do every day because their wife doesn't like it or their husband doesn't like it. And, how come you're not spending time with me? Another Sunday and you can't do brunch. Like, I think I just have to do a really, really great job, which I've tried and failed at a lot, of setting clear and concise expectations in every relationship. Mm-hmm. So both spouse and employee and client relationships, the clearer the expectations, the least chance you have for any feelings of resentment. And I think resentment kills more relationships than anything.
I 100% agree.
It's not just like the lack of attention, because that can come back. I'm inattentive yesterday, but I'm super attentive today, and that's fine if you've set that expectation. That way you don't get mad. Like a baby sets the expectation that they're going to cry, eat, sleep. Like you don't get mad at the baby for not reading. Right. Because the baby didn't set that expectation. I think a lot of people just do a really, really poor job of setting expectations, or they lie, man.
Yeah.
I think most people just lie. They just lie, and then they get caught in their lies, and they get confused as to why they got caught in their lies, and they move on to the next lie. And I don't know why. It seems like a massive waste of time to me.
Do you find that the best way always to set those expectations is over communication?
Yeah, I mean, we do that and I think a lot of my life, I'm a product of my environment. I came to New York City to do theater, and I'm a Cancer. So I'm super sensitive, I'm pretty empathetic, and I learned as my job for a long time to listen to respond instead of listening to reply, right? Mm-hmm. So like when you're with someone, you're making eye contact and you're listening. Otherwise, don't be there. Like, don't be a wasteful human connection for somebody else. Go fucking scroll on TikTok by yourself. And so that, and then morphed into real estate, which is, okay, go and meet strangers and build trust immediately and build a lifelong career doing that. How the fuck how do you do that? I don't just build one product and then sell it passively over and over and over and over again. I'm not an enterprise sales. Right? I am in customer service at scale, which is incredibly difficult. It's emotional manual labor. It's really what I do all day long. And, I think that understanding helps like really propel me. I don't even remember what your question was. Really propels me forward also in managing other people. I think there's a big difference between leadership and management. Mm-hmm. It's a whole separate conversation.
Just for time's sake, I want to dive into what being a father has done for you, because I'm sure you've seen the highest of the most beautiful apartments. You've seen the wealthiest people, the stakes the highest. There must be something grounding about going home and seeing your real product.
My half. Yeah.
Half of your product.
I mean, Zena, we have one daughter. She's 5. She's going to kindergarten soon. I mean, she's the best. Like it's hard to describe. Like you can't fault her for anything because it's your fault, because she's you, Yeah. And you, if anything, you have like a parent's guilt more than anything.
What's
right?
the guilt?
Time. It's like, if I could, I would spend all day with her. But is that also the best? Like, is that the best example? Like, like I do, now that she's a little bit older, because I don't think it would have made sense when she was 2 or 3. Like now that she's a little bit older, I do want to have like that synergy with work life with her, mm-hmm. where, just like with Amelia, it's like, hey, I have work events all night this week. Which ones should we make date nights? Mm-hmm. Let's kill 20 birds with one stone. Let's find synergy in how we're living our lives. That way it's not, I can't wait to see you this weekend. It's like, can't wait to see you every day.
Right.
Some days I have lots of appointments. Some days I have less appointments, just the way the world works. And so the same thing for Zena. Like I get excited about bringing her to the office and bringing her to work and letting her see what life is like and kind of having her tag along on the journey a bit. But you do have that guilt about time. Like and listen, my summers are incredibly busy. Yeah. Probably the busiest time in our business. It's a significant, it's market openings, it's filming, it's work, and we have multiple companies. And so they're in Greece and I'm not there, for weeks on end. And it's wild at this age because every time I then see her, she's like a little taller.
Right.
Like her voice is a little different. And then I've missed those moments. And so that's that.
Do you ever feel like you have to justify it to yourself?
I mean, she has a nice life. So, I mean, kind of. I don't know. I think, I guess, but like, you know, my dad worked all the time. Mm-hmm. And would I have wanted him around more? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, would it have, I appreciate the life that I was afforded growing up too. And, you know, I think Xena will as well. And, but I think all parents feel that way. Like, you want to spend every single moment with your kids, but then when you're with the kids, they exhaust the fuck out of you. So then you're like, oh God, I want to go back to work so bad. And then it's just this back and forth and back and forth in your brain that you just try to fight through.
Before it's all said and done, you talked about legacy earlier. Mm-hmm. What do you hope the Ryan Serhant legacy is when, I don't know, maybe one day, God forbid, in many, 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 many years, people look back and think about you?
The amount of people who have come up to me on the street every day, and in email, DMs, at events, and tell me, thank you for showing me that it was possible. That I didn't have to be born rich. I didn't have to be born in one particular city. I didn't have to be the smartest. I didn't have to be the best looking. If I just controlled my time and worked as hard as I possibly could, anything is possible, especially today. Mm-hmm. You know, with everything that we have afforded to us and the different types of lives that we can create for ourselves. Not necessarily true 50 years ago, not necessarily true 100 years ago. Yeah. Work as hard as you want. You're only going to go so far. I don't know, that resonates with me, where people from all walks of life have just come up to me and said, thank you for showing me it was possible, because I followed your journey or your story. And, you know, running out of money in New York City in the summer of 2008, becoming a realtor when it was the last thing on earth you ever wanted to become, because you thought realtors were fucking the devil, and like you never wanted to get into sales because you thought it was gross and like all that stuff. And then you made it your own and you built this thing by yourself, like from the ground up, totally bootstrapped. You know, like I think that's a big part of what I like, because, you know, I look at like athletes, for example, right? No matter how hard I work, I will never be LeBron. Like, it's just never going to happen for me. Like, no matter how much I swim, I'll never be Phelps. There are people who are born with athletic ability, with musical talent, with types of brains, physical bodies that are genetically gifted, who then absolutely have to work at it. Yep. Because just like my grandfather said, they could also have just been in that cemetery and not worked on it, right? And I didn't have any of those things. And so what do I have? I know how to tell a story. And so how could I take that talent and work really, really hard and turn that into the story of selling homes, educating others, and producing to create something big for myself? And I think showing other people that or whatever you want is totally possible, and you can do it from the ground up too, is a good legacy, I guess.
I have a little something for you right before we leave.
Oh.
Just give me 10 seconds. It's right outside here. I'm going to grab it for you.
Okay. And we're live. Nice little setup here. You know what this reminds me of? If you watch this back, what was that? Like the Durst killer guy, where he thought the cameras were off and he was in the bathroom and he's like, just tell them you did it. Imagine if I had some sort of secret, insane thing that I just like leaked right now. Nope, now I hear you coming out of the stairs. I was just about to tell you this totally crazy thing that no one knows. What are those, cigarettes?
So my girlfriend, who we're all together on the Egypt trip.
Yeah.
She makes the best card games in the world.
Oh.
We're missing one of the iterations. There's Let's Fucking Fuck, We can get you that one another time.
Okay.
There's let's fucking date
Okay.
and let's fucking go.
Okay.
Date is for date night.
Okay.
Go is for friends. These are for you.
Awesome. Thank you. That's cool.
And I heard they help close deals.
This game may result in enhanced connections, increased sex drive, and uncontrollable laughter.
That one's for Amelia.
Okay.
The other one's for your sales.
Got it.
She wanted me to give them to you. She was
nice. Cool. Thank you.
Of course.
So card games. No one's ever given me card games before.
They're pretty iconic.
Awesome.
Good business as well.
Good.
I want to thank you for taking the time. I know
For sure.
you're busy.
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you also because as a young entrepreneur, seeing what you've built, seeing how you've used media, seeing also, in a lot of ways, I think even sitting down with you, understanding, there's the brand, but then there's also the human. And I think taking moments like this to, especially nice and early in the morning, to think about the things that really matter to you, mean a lot to me. So I appreciate what you've done, this morning and taking the time. But also I think for a lot of young people that want to make a name for themselves and not be that wasted potential. And I'm excited for all of the next things and for Serhant to take over the world.
Let's go. Let's fucking go.
There you go.
Let's just like the card games.
There you go. I appreciate you.
Thanks,
Thank you
man.
so much, man.
Of course.